Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Squawk 7000. It's great to be back with you with more aviation news and conversations with people who share a passion for flying. In this episode we meet with some of the pilots of TikTok and YouTube. And this gang of pilots have over 250,000 followers on social media between them. You'll find links to their sites and videos and their weekly online chats on Squawk Talk in the programme notes for this episode. Like and subscribe to them and, of course, to us as well. So take us with you on your walk or drive or settle back and enjoy this chat that really could have gone in any direction. Let's say hello to some of the gentlemen who have joined us this evening, and that is Dan, Mikey, James and Rich. You're all very welcome, and welcome to Squawk 7000.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, definitely.
Dan, let me go to you then, and the idea of you all coming together on social media and TikTok. I'm sure there's a couple of pilots out there who are going, what's this TikTok thing? I thought that was for dancing.
Well, yeah, and that was my initial thoughts as well when I joined TikTok during the first part of the pandemic as something to, just troll. I've been on Instagram for quite a while, and I hadn't really sort of touched YouTube even, to be honest, only briefly on YouTube, but mainly on Instagram was where I was. And how I got into TikTok was the wife said, you should try TikTok, and the same response as you, Michael. I was like, well, isn't that for people that dance? And if anybody's seen me dance, then it's definitely not recommended. So I said, okay, well, I'll humour her and I'll set up a TikTok account under the same handle, Fly UK. And I started posting some videos, and the surprise to me was, oh my word, actually, there's a good response here, and the views are rocketing compared to what the same content on Instagram was getting 10, 20 times in the early days anyway. So during the pandemic, was getting 10, 20 times the amount of views than it would on something like Instagram. So that's sort of obviously as it would. I thought, well, this is actually okay, and I think probably all of us had similar experiences on TikTok in the chat now, and that's how it started, progressed. And obviously you get to then meet other accounts like James and Rich and Mikey, who are on the talk today. And that's how it all really started. So yeah, nothing more than that. So.
And Rich, I think you've already declared that you probably have the most flying on the clock at this stage of the gang. How did they get you roped into this?
So it was similar sort of thing, really. So it's the first pandemic, it was just looking at ways of being able to share my aviation passion. And the thing that I liked about TikTok was it reached a wider audience, whereas Instagram is very sort of much linked to who your friend network already is, whereas TikTok seems to sort of be able to reach a bit beyond that. And it was really interesting to be able to get comments and feedback and responses from people that I've never met before, other side of the world, that were really interested in finding out about aviation. And that was one of the things that I particularly liked about it. And I was able to share some of my experience over my 30-odd years of flying, which is really good.
On your YouTube site, just having a look at some of the stuff that you're doing there, like a pit special aerobatic session, you get to share stuff like this and make, I suppose, the rest of the aviation community madly jealous. Is that the plan?
Yeah, so I got to fly with a guy called Bruce Bohannon, who's a multiple world record holder in the US, so tied to altitude records, and also speed records in an aircraft that he built himself, which was called Pushy Galore, which has quite an interesting name, and is actually stuck to the wall in the EAA Museum in Oshkosh. But a fantastic guy to fly with, and it's, again, it's just an opportunity to be able to share that experience with other people that are keen on aviation.
Also on the call with us is James, known as Pilot Northern Ireland, or Northern Ireland, I probably should say. James, where's your start in aviation?
Well, my very start in aviation was 14 years ago in Dorset in England, where I started to learn to fly, and I got my private pilot's license. And I always wanted to be a commercial pilot and be an airline pilot, but actually I'm colorblind, so that's sort of put a bit of a stop on the road in that. I went to the CAA and did a lot of tests, and they basically said, nope, you're not going to be a pilot. You're not going to be a commercial pilot. So then I really just wanted to fly as much as I can and get my private pilot's license. And I've got about 150 hours now, and then I moved over to Northern Ireland, and I've been flying here ever since. And much like, much like Rich and Dan have been saying, started on TikTok, just trying to find a way of sharing my passion for flying with anybody that I can. I got to find some way of sharing my enjoyment. So I started posting a couple of videos on TikTok, and then with Northern Ireland being the kind of place that it is, everyone knows everyone and everyone wants to see everything. And, suddenly started getting a lot of requests, and people saying, oh, I think I saw you flying over my house, and can you fly over Belfast? Can you fly over Newcastle? And I started posting, videos of loads of different places over the country, and it just skyrocketed, literally. And it's just been amazing to share that passion with everybody else.
And there's quite a healthy aviation scene in Northern Ireland as well.
Well, I didn't realize how big the aviation scene was. And actually, I've been speaking to a couple other aviation enthusiasts. There's a Facebook page we have here called Airside NI. And it's just got so much bigger over the last couple of years, with people just interested in flying and aviation generally, that it's amazing. And it's great to be able to share that with people.
And another one of the Squawk Talk team that's on our call is Mikey Mcmahon, the Flying Irishman. Mikey, we might as well use your title as well. People around the Midlands will know you, or at least your family.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, Michael, if I'm
Reputation.
Yeah, you mentioned my dad's name, especially around kind of Tullamore and stuff like that. Everyone kind of knows him, and then especially in the aviation scene in the Midlands, or mainly Ireland as well. You mentioned dad's name, and it crops up, and everyone knows him.
That means that at some stage you have been on the grass in Clonbelogue.
I have indeed. I was brought up in Clonbelogue because dad was chief instructor there for 5 years, and I ended up doing ground crew for them and stuff, and working with the Pilatus Porter and doing the fueling and stuff. So that was good fun.
And so when did they actually decide to let you have an airplane to fly for yourself?
So that would have been, I think I was 15. I'll never forget the day my dad asked me. I was in the back of his flex wing, and there was snow on the ground. It was freezing, and he said to me, look, I'm going to get you a flying lesson for your birthday. It's going to be 15th birthday. And he said, what do you want to fly in? At that time I was shivering. I said, 3-axis, I want something with cabin heat. That's it. And it went from there.
And what are you flying now? What can you get yourself into these days?
So at the moment I am on Icarus C42s, but I'm currently upgrading the license to the SSEA, so I'll be looking at kind of Pipers and Cessnas and stuff like that.
Dan, if you listening to the combined enthusiasm of all the team here, when you decided to put Squawk Talk together, what's the goal? What's the aim?
Well, the aim is that not only my followers that follow me, but James's followers, Mike's followers, and Rich, and obviously Private Pilot Nick, who couldn't make it tonight. The idea behind it is that we make sure that the aviation content gets to all of the people, amongst the sort of team, rather than just our individual accounts, which is obviously going to be a benefit to the people that follow myself and others. And also just trying to sort of have a regular get together, talk about, loosely, not as organized as probably something like yourself, with your podcast, but just loosely have a chat about the current affairs in aviation, but mainly about banter. People love a bit of a laugh on our streams, and I think that was our main aim, really.
I think, Rich, the case is when, you put a couple of pilots together and you get with hangar talk, or sometimes actually affectionately known as shite talk. Well, that's a different thing altogether. I think we can use that word on a podcast. There's also actually a reasonably useful side to it, because even in the banter, Rich, there's a bit of teaching and learning going on, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, occasionally we get questions come through, and we'll try and answer it based on, our experience or knowledge. I've just recently completed my flight instructor rating, so, I've been answering some questions that relate to revalidation or renewals, which is a hot topic, obviously coming out of COVID. A lot of people falling foul of the time requirements they need to do within the 24 months. That's it. And obviously James at the moment is thinking about trying to get his PPL back as well. So sort of going through the motions there and talking through the regulations, which are ever changing, and a real minefield of confusion. Certainly trying to enlighten people there is very much what we're doing, and actually making sure people realise that it is achievable. A lot of time people think that flying is just for the elitists and the people that have got all the money. Actually, it is very accessible.
Well, we have, as you say, a couple of microlight flyers on this podcast tonight. It has made it much more accessible, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, for sure. And, one of the things that is against me is I'm not built, generally speaking, for microlights, but certainly even that, the weight limits are starting to change, and again, it's making it more accessible. So I'm actually looking to go and do a checkout in a Sanaka, which is something that I wouldn't have thought I'd be able to do.
I was talking recently to one of the airshow organisers, for Bray in particular, with the sort of a bit of excitement that post-pandemic, 2022 should be a great year.
Yeah, a mate of mine, he owns a TB20 and he just loves to explore. Going back to Clonbelow, we've managed to this time my dad were coming and looking at flying the TB20 across the water and to Clonbelow for a few days.
James, what's going to be happening? Any air shows planned?
No air shows planned, but just trying to get as far away as I can from Northern Ireland and fly around and see the rest of the world, really. I think, I've seen pretty much everywhere from the sky over Northern Ireland, and I've never really left the island, so, I'd love to get,
Well, Scotland's close enough to you anyway, isn't it?
Having done the conversion to the microlight, suddenly it's a lot more accessible price-wise, in terms of those costs. I think that's what's opening me up this summer, is able to be able to travel so much further. When you're flying or you're renting a Cessna 172 or a Piper PA-28, you're spending the guts of £150, £200 per hour for a trip. You go down, if I fly down to Mikey in a Cessna, it's going to cost me the guts of £1,000 return potentially. Whereas for me now to fly in the Icarus, even though I'm renting, it's still only going to cost me, a few £100. And if you're owning a microlight, it'll cost you £100 because, you can, an Icarus C-42 burns, 13, 14 litres of fuel an hour. I can fly down to Killarney or something at County Kerry Airport or something and fly back and I've only spent £100.
The dearest thing can be the landing fee. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, these low-cost airlines where your seat costs you more than the fare if you pick your own seat. It comes to that one.
Yeah.
Guys, I suppose, when you think about the specialty that you bring to the podcast in this episode is your exposure to social media. And I suppose one of the mistakes that people make when they start deciding that they're going to put their last flight up, they stick the GoPro on the airplane and off they go. There's more to it than that. What do you actually have to do to get those followers and get the viewers?
I think the difference between like TikTok and YouTube, we talk a lot about TikTok and YouTube, and the followers and the people that are on TikTok are very different sort of demographic, and they want a different viewing on TikTok. If we were to put a 3 or 4, even a 20-minute video on TikTok, no one's going to watch it. The key to TikTok, I think for us and myself, the reason why we've been able to get thousands of followers on TikTok is because it's something that really interests people. It's something that is short, it's snappy, it's easy to view, and just being able to just see something from the sky that they've never seen before.
Yeah, and I can say that one of the biggest differences between the two bigger platforms at the time and Instagram have caught up a little bit is the fact that there doesn't seem to be any copyright restrictions around the music, that you put to your videos. Now, that was a massive, key because, people are hearing, whether it be Queen that were sort of supportive of the TikTok. So they're almost like using it as like a Spotify type platform, as well. And, that really makes a big difference to your video. So you go onto YouTube, you have to produce a longer video. You then have to purchase rights for music, etc. But it requires a lot more effort to get, a video up on YouTube than it does to get something on TikTok. And of course the time differences, like James has picked up on, the time differences, if you put anything more than I'd say a 10-second video on TikTok, then it's probably going to affect your ratings. Now 10 seconds to get a really punchy, almost like a sort of an intro, what would be an intro on YouTube, it's so much easier to get down and put it up on TikTok. And I think that's what's made it really really accessible. And
I probably spent an hour editing a video and it's got 100 views. my best video that I've ever posted got 4.4 million views within 2 weeks.
Whoa, that's a number. Yeah.
And I spent about 30 seconds editing that video.
So spontaneity, authenticity are the kind of things that when you realize I'm going to have to ask the question then, can you make any money from this with your millions of views? Come on, James. When are you buying that C42 of your own?
I know. TikTok is probably a bit further behind than the number of, how much they would probably pay out for views compared to YouTube. So I average about 500,000 views a week on my TikTok. During the summertime back in 2021, it was averaging about 1.5 million a week. During that period, the most I ever made in 1 month, I had over 7 million views, was about 6 or 7 million views. I got £30.
Okay, so if anyone's listening to us thinking, right, this is how I'm going to pay for my PPL or my CPL, no, probably not. So is this really a passion project? Is this why you do it?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Rich? Certainly passion driven, and I think if you think back to early YouTube, this is what I keep looking at. Early YouTube, people were just uploading videos. They weren't looking at monetizing it. It's become, obviously, over time, it's then become a place where they can earn a living. And I think that TikTok will go the same way in another sort of 5 years' time, where once the account's matured, once there's actually revenue streams there to be made, then the creators that have already established themselves will then start to pay dividends for them. But, again, the main focus of this is to literally just share aviation, just through the relationships now. I know that I can get a free renewal from Rich every. No, I'm only joking. Rich.
I do a revow for you. There you go.
I love it.
It's so true. Yeah,
it's free flying for me, so I don't care.
Hey, there you go. There's the answer to it. You're saying the standard equipment for you guys has to be the GoPro or the camera that you can attach to the aircraft.
Yeah, so I'm in the process at the moment of weighing up. I went to upgrade one of the GoPros, and that's all I use at the moment. And the Insta360s have just exploded onto the market. And I'm torn between, do I go for an Insta360 or do I stick to the good old GoPro? So it's all down to what specs are better.
Yeah, the GoPro 360 cameras are a nightmare.
You see,
I've got a Max.
I've got the Insta 360 cameras, and from that, having one on the wing, one inside the cockpit. These 360 cameras are now, two of them are now doing the job of 6 or 7 cameras that, that you traditionally have to have on GoPro. But I would say that the quality is still, if you were looking at sort of getting 4K imagery, sort of for an angle shot, when you start losing that on the 360 cameras at the moment, I think they will get better. I mean, they're great shots when they're zoomed out. An iPhone feels.
What our listeners can't or see at the moment is all of these guys waving their equipment at me, which is very unsettling.
Lucky you, Michael. Lucky you.
Very unsettling.
I want to see my 360 equipment.
Let's go for a practical bit of advice from you then. Where do you mount these cameras, and how do you get the audio into them of the RT or the intercom?
I only have a phone. I don't have any GoPros, because actually one thing I quite enjoyed through TikTok is doing TikTok lives and actually live streaming from the plane, which is great. So normally I'd have a passenger who would, hold the phone up and they would manage the live stream. And I have a cable from YouTube to get the audio across, and it's a very simple headset splitter. The audio out from the aircraft splits into two, one going to my headset and then the second going straight into my phone. It's a very, very simple device, and you can get them on Amazon for about £10. And it's fantastic for the live streams, and you easily get 600-700 viewers on a live stream, while you're up in the sky.
I presume that's on the basis that you have a good internet connection on your phone for that.
Yes.
Are TikTok very keen on you living from a moving vehicle? Do they not try and stop you for being a questionable activity?
Well, in terms of safety, and obviously if the Civil Aviation Authority is watching or listening, I don't do this whilst flying on my own. I'd always make sure that I've got a passenger.
The passenger's job, yeah.
So I would never see the comments or maintain that stream. I've always got a passenger with me who would do that.
And Rich, it's a fair point to make, isn't it? I mean, we still have to fly the airplane when we're doing all this.
It is. I mean, that's our number one priority, obviously, is the safety of the aircraft and anybody that's on board with us. But, obviously it's important that we also share and, record our adventures that we're doing as well. And it's, making sure that obviously we do that in the safest way possible. So I think we all use mounts, so that it removes any distraction from us during flight, and you set everything up before you go. And I think that's the important thing, is that you take the time before you do any pre-flight or anything else to get all of the cameras and stuff set up if you're going to do it, and then make sure that it does not become a distraction for you whilst you're flying. And
we'll be back with more after this short break. Mikey, you were going to talk there about mounting the camera, or was there something else you had to add?
So just saying with the sound and stuff like that, I have a easier, cheaper way of what I think of myself as easier and cheaper way of doing it. Instead of getting split mounts and everything, split plugs, I've got one that plugs into the side of the GoPro, and then I just shove it up inside the ear cup. It's a tiny little mic about that big, and one of the clip-on ones, and it picks up everything. And 9 times, it's only failed once out of the 100 times I've used it.
Dan, any advice?
I was going to say, I use a flight corder cable, which goes straight into the GoPro, but also plugs straight into the audio panel.
That's the exact same one I have, a flight corder, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, and it's also got a 3.5 mil, so you can plug it into a smartphone that may have a 3.5 mil. Externally mounting, obviously you need it signed off by an engineer approved, but one that I've been using for best part of 15 years is Ultra Clamp, which are available through Amazon, and Never Move or anything else. So, but I recently did a flight over New York City with a 360 camera strapped underneath the wing of a PA-32.
You're setting me up.
That would scare me.
Yeah.
That would scare me. Like the fact that just anything strapping to the outside. I mean, I'd love to do it. I thought
you meant just flying over New York, James.
That would be great.
You got tie downs on the aircraft. It's the most secure place on the aircraft to be able to attach them.
You can fly over New York quite easily. It's quite. I mean, Rich, it's a channel for VFR traffic, isn't it?
So there's the Hudson River corridor, and so if you're below 1,000 feet, you can fly around the Statue of Liberty. I've done it at 500 feet several times, and there's basically a flow system. So if you're going south, you're on the western side of the Hudson River. If you're going north, you're on the eastern side of the river, and never the two should meet. But it's all self-announcing. You've got to look out for helicopters, which are absolutely everywhere. If you're over 1,000 feet, then there's less restrictions. You're talking to JFK at that point, and they can give you transit. So we got a transit across the Central Park, and then over the top of LaGuardia Airport last summer, which was fantastic. I mean, one of my friends during the pandemic went and did all 3 New York airports for touch and goes, which is just incredible.
That was the time you could, and people did the same in Dublin and the Lambay Transit as well, because of the lack of traffic. Rich, you've actually set up a really nice next part of this chat this evening, and that is, what has your use of social media given you access to that you mightn't heretofore done? In other words, have any of you leveraged your social media to get into aeroplanes like sharks or other aircraft like that, Mikey?
So it was that they were friends of my dad's. My dad was the Irish delegate on the European Microlife Federation, and at his wedding in 2016, I was introduced to Jackie and Paolo from Portugal, and they mentioned the shark, and I was like, I'd love to fly that thing. Anyway, life got in the way. Fast forward to last year, and I thought I really want to do a vlog on the shark. Let's go and fly the shark. So I contacted Jackie and Paolo, and next thing I know, I'm sitting in the world's fastest microlight, and probably the most complex microlight I've ever been in. I find out what it's like to do a 90-degree turn at 162 miles an hour low level to the ground. And we fly the only 2 sharks in Portugal, wingtip to wingtip, for a 200 mile an hour flyby. Welcome to episode 2 of my Portuguese flying holiday vlog series.
I think that would be called a chancer rating. Yeah, you're officially rated as a chancer, but it worked for you. It worked.
Of course it works. You have the gift of the gab. It goes a long way, you know.
What about the rest of you, Rich? Apart from flying down over Manhattan, any other things that you've leveraged your social media for?
I don't think I've really leveraged it. I've used it to promote what I do as a day job, I guess. But I fly a high altitude unmanned system, and certainly I've drawn attention to that system and the multiple world records that we broke last year.
Tell me more about that.
So I'm the crew training post holder for a system called Zephyr, which is a high altitude long endurance aircraft. So it's a solar electric aircraft with a 25 meter wingspan and weighs about 70 kilo. And we currently hold the world record for the longest unrefueled flight at 25 days, 23 hours and 57 minutes. Last year, I also broke the absolute world record for that aircraft type at 76,142 feet.
Do you know what? With between millions of viewers and world records, Squawk 7000's really moving up in the world, aren't we?
It is. You can't get much higher.
No, I'm taking a back seat for the next few minutes. Come on, rescue me, James. Dan, tell me about what have you done in order to that your notoriety has given you access to.
Well, I'm certainly not a celebrity like James is in Northern Ireland, but I have been offered to last year, but it didn't turn out due to the COVID restrictions and stuff. I did get offered with an ex-RAF pilot to fly in his L-29, privately owned L-29 jet.
Oh, lovely.
And I was gutted because his contract, because he works privately for an aviation firm, flying these jets and private jets. He's now emigrated to Australia, and he said, if you ever come to Australia, then give us a shout. Then I'm almost thinking of booking a ticket anyway, But
surely you can leverage a buddy pass off Mikey.
Well, actually, that's a good point, Mikey. You can take me anywhere in the world, actually.
I love my people. Call your people.
When agents start appearing on the scene, you're going to be in trouble. James, they've referred to your celebrity status in Northern Ireland. Have the media been chasing you yet?
Well, yes, they have. I think with the size of the country and the people around here, everyone knows everybody. I can't leave the house without getting spotted or someone coming up to me or speaking to me. Yeah, I get papped everywhere I go. You go to the Dundonald Ice Bowl and boom, you get papped. The delivery men come to the door with your Amazon deliveries and they're like, hey, you're James. I'm like, yes, I am. Belfast Live did a post on me earlier in the year, but I haven't leveraged anything like Mikey. As we've said, he's the biggest chance to probably blacken his way onto anything and everything. So actually, Mikey has offered to take me around some of his friends and at least see some of his aircraft, and maybe I'll have the pleasure of flying with Mikey, but I'm not sure that counts as blagging anything if I get to fly with Mikey.
Just tell me, with your celebrity status, that you've rang up a restaurant and they've said, oh no, but you've gone, it's James, D. James.
Yeah. But so what I am, so to use my TikTok following for good, I've actually started training for the Belfast Marathon in May, on the 1st of May. And I thought, well, I've got 54,000 followers on TikTok. Why not use this for something good and raise some money for charity? So the plan is to raise a minimum of £5,500 for the air ambulance Northern Ireland, which is how much it costs to run the air ambulance every single day, which is over £2 million a year. So if every one of my followers gave me £1, that's £54,000. I would be very, very happy with that. So that's my plan anyway for the next 2.5-3 months is to use my social media following to raise as much money as I can.
Well, let's hope that your chat with us on Squawk 7000 does increase that listenership. Let's do a final question as we come to the end of our chat. I just want to go around to each of you and ask you a little bit about the flying. So let me start with Mikey. Why don't you're here on the screen with me. Your favourite flight, Mikey?
My favourite flight, it would definitely have to be back in 2016 when I brought my little brother Robbie flying. He's got a rare condition called Williams syndrome, and there was battles in my house over who was bringing the Robbie flying, and turns out on the day I was the only one rated on the C-42 it came down to me. So we threw his booster seat from the car into the right-hand seat, strapped him in to the high-powered taxi run up the runway to make sure he'd be all right. 'Cause one of the conditions that he has is his hearing is he could hear dog whistles that humans aren't meant to hear. So I didn't want it to hurt his ears. And the other thing is I wanted to make sure he wasn't scared, because it would take a minute to a minute and a half to configure the aircraft to get it back on the ground. And for someone who's terrified, that's the longest minute and a half ever, and it's going to stick with them. And I wanted him to enjoy this because he's my best mate. He's my favorite person in the world. And we took off, and he just absolutely loved it. In fact, he was disappointed when we were coming back into land.
Yes, bud. We're flying, yeah. Do you like it? Yeah. That's good.
And that's where, as well, just tying that in with the social media side, that's where it really started kicking off for me, because that ended up getting 11.5 million views worldwide, the video. And it was just absolutely amazing to get the awareness for Williams syndrome out there.
These numbers are stunning when you say them. Okay, and for you, final question for you will be your bucket list aircraft or experience.
Oh, bucket list aircraft or experience would probably be... Oh, that's a tough one. I'd say the bucket list experience would be that 0G flight that they do.
Yeah.
And the bucket list aircraft would probably be fly a beluga.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's okay. You noticed that silence there from the other three going, okay,
yeah, seen that, yeah.
When's his birthday? Dan, your favourite flight?
So favourite flight, ultimately it's very similar to Mikey, but my son, he sort of, he's only 5, bless him. He's a twin, but my daughter hates flying. I've tried to get her sort of to go, but my son, the first time that I took him up in the air, and that was fantastic. But the ultimate favourite is the first landaway, where I could actually fly somewhere with him, you know, and go and have something to eat with him, and then fly back, and that. Just for him to fall asleep on the way back, you know. I mean, that's how exciting I am, you know, as a company. But just that experience of, I've always like imagined, you know, what it would be like to, you know, have father and son flying an aircraft, and I never had that, you know, privilege when I was sort of younger. You know, I'm first generation pilot.
See, we can see for miles.
Yeah.
So we're going to go right over to Alton Towers.
Alton Towers is always very popular for first-time flyers, and we go via Uttoxeter and, of course, JCB headquarters.
This is amazing.
That's the aircraft got to the door, got pulling my dog, so it's going to line up to leave our field.
I can see the shadow of us.
You can see it spotted our shadow on the ground, which was pretty cool. So just to sort of have that, it's something that hopefully will last him for the rest of his life, and one day hopefully he will get his pilot's license as well. You know,
you have sold that so well. That's a lovely story, Dan. I like that one. James, for you,
probably a little bit more self-centered for my favourite flights. I was probably a time last summer where I got a zone transit directly over Belfast City Airport, and
I saw that video. You stopping Ryanair's departure, yeah.
Where I delayed Ryanair's departure by roughly 20 seconds. They did eventually take off, and probably had to pay out a lot of compensation for being late. But no, it was an amazing flight. We were cruising up from sort of Portaferry up north towards Donaghadee and Bangor. And I thought, I'd quite like to go across Belfast City. So I've called up traffic control, requested zone transit, and he said, look, let me know when you get to Donaghadee. We'll see what the traffic's doing. You know, we'll see. And we got to Bangor, and he said, no route direct Belfast City Airport, but keep the speed up. There's a Ryanair just pushing back. I said, okay, no problem. And I'm in a C-42. We'll keep the speed up. Don't really tend to hear those words in the same sentence as a C-42. So I'm cruising along at 80, push it up to about 85, 90 knots. And I'm cruising out Hollywood towards Belfast City Airport, and it's taxiing onto the runway. And he's told to line up. And we're cruising directly down the centre line of the runway. I can see the Ryanair sitting on the ground. I need to wait. He had to wait until I went over. It was surreal. I couldn't believe it. It was very accommodating air traffic controller. And I think that's something people, general aviation pilots are often worried about, is that relationship between pilots and air traffic control. And oh no, I can't go there. That video I got a lot of grief and a lot of stick from people on TikTok and all why was I flying my mic right there? It was the moped of the sky. Get out the way.
Yeah.
But actually, no, you can fly anywhere, really. I always fly where I probably shouldn't, and regularly make approaches into, Belfast International, and why not?
Why not? Exactly.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Bucket list aircraft or experience?
I would like to own a P-51 Mustang.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to take it flying with Tom Cruise and do a bit of dogfighting with Tom Cruise. True Top Gun style.
You could be my wingman any day.
And tonight's winning lotto number is, good luck with that one, James. Rich, last word with you, your favourite flight and your bucket list.
There are many, but there's one that I would say is probably my most special, and the one that sticks with me the most is one of my close friends. His son had terminal cancer, and we wanted to make sure that we did something special for him. So a couple of flying buddies, we got a couple of aircraft sorted out, and we spoke to the wonderful team down at Boltby in Leon Solent, who arranged for a Spitfire to come and fly formation with us. So I was flying formation with them in a Comanche. My friend's lad was in the front seat, and we were able to do a fantastic formation and get a nice video for his family. Then we went to the Isle of Wight after we left the Spitfire behind, went to the beach for the day, and then flew around the Needles on the way home. Unfortunately, his son passed away 6 months later, but it was such a nice special moment that we were all able to get together and really celebrate, a fantastic life that he had with something so special. And it was certainly brings a tear to my eye every time I think about it, for such a special day, and, being able to make that special moment for them all.
Well, that's part of the joy of aviation, isn't it? It's the pleasure that it brings to people, and the camaraderie to it as well. And the last question, bucket list airplane or experience?
Bucket list experience would have to be going flying a Hawk at low level.
Who's going to plug your show on TikTok? Mikey, throw it to you. Go on. Dates, times, when, how do they find you?
8 p.m. every Thursday on TikTok, Squawk Talk. Don't miss it. As James put it out there, we are the loose women of the pilot world.
I didn't say him.
The loose women of the aviation world.
Gentlemen of aviation.
Guys, it's been a real
This conversation has probably the most civil conversation we have ever had. But I must just say it's been an absolute pleasure. We really must.
That'll get you invited back, and we'll talk to you after.
Take notes.
Yeah, we'll talk to you after the Belfast Marathon. Then you can, I'll be there with a microphone, catching your gasping as you come across the live of it. But I think you were also looking for there's a pilot joke and a marathon joke. How do you know somebody's run a marathon? They'll tell you. How do you know somebody's a pilot? They'll tell you. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Squawk 7000. Rich, James, Mikey and Dan. And who's missing tonight?
Private Pilot Nick.
Private Pilot Nick. You don't know what you missed, Private Pilot Nick. We'll put links to all of the guys' websites and social media in the programme notes for this. Thanks for joining us on Squawk 7000. Back next week with more.